Good morning, everyone. Welcome to workshop risk assessment workshop. This morning we're talking about Elevate Work Platform and hot work, which is high risk work. You can work together, but and they work at the same time. We're using EWP and hot work at the same time, which is create greater risk and hazard. And this morning we're gonna run through what possible hazard and risk that might happen on site, how we can control it, and how we're gonna monitor and not let the bad thing happen. Something gonna hurt us or gonna create accident, something like that. This purpose of the workshop is basically to train our workforce or personnel technician to identify the risk. Basically, before we obtain permit to work, we have to do risk assessment, which is to scope the job, look around the area. If you're gonna use the EWP, we check the ground level, the access, and how we gonna access the area using EWP, and then plus the hot work, which is another extra risky work. Here's some little picture about EWP or Elevate Work Platform, which is just small one, which is about under 11 meters, which is about you can go up the roof this building. Maybe in the 135-foot EWP, you can reach the tower or the silo, which is what we use in a fixed plant or in the mining. So the risk assessment just another way to enforce our workforce to more recognize the risk and hazard before start doing work, or sometimes even the risk and hazard introduced during the work. That's what we want to control and to recognize before incident happens. What is the risk assessment? Yeah, like I said earlier, because when we identify the hazard, when we are new to a new place, we not really know the area very well. But that's the thing, when something we need to question, is it gonna be right, or this one gonna be go wrong, or something like that. Even though we have good machine, good everything in the workplace, but there is something that can go wrong without beyond our knowledge or something. But when we work together, we do the risk assessment and assess the risk, apply the control, and then monitor with this whether effective or not, that we create our work safer, which is not gonna hurt us. Right, what is the hazard of EWP? What can go wrong on EWP itself? Well, usually there was requirement on site before EWP drivers on site have to comply with on site standard, which is just requirement to be comply with our regulation as well. Even though that one pass, doesn't mean that stopping hazard when we are using it. So the hazard, you can fall, you can tip over when using operating EWP up higher on the air, and then the basket might be overloaded, and then you can tip forward the basket. That's the big no-no. But when we're doing a assessment, we can recognize, we can calculate the weight on the basket, how much load we have to allow, basically just to be safe. And then electrocution, that's the big one. When we operating EWP, sometimes we not realize gonna hit the power line uninsulated, which is like live power. That's the big killer, the major one. Because when that one touch the power line, everything gonna be burned. Basically that's the oil and the hazard just within a second. Remember, that's not don't want that to happen. And the crashing. Crashing, there is a lot of incident. It's been happened, but we don't want that one reoccurring, which is crashing in the construction, because there was between current controller and operator on the casket kind of lack communication or something like that. When current controller operate the EWP to move because the basket stuck inside the structure, only control that can work is from the ground. The above controller doesn't work because the system of the WB itself is setting like that. When the basket stuck, is not the above ground controller is not working, only ground controller that work. So that's where the ground controller is operating EWP and then crush people the one on the basket. That where the crushing hazard in EWP. EWP risk control. So before we using operate EWP, the control we have to do is during the pre-start, make sure EWP is good working condition, no faulty on the hydraulic line, and all feature working perfectly. And then so when we using EWP, make sure the ground stability is good. We have to check, make sure we not run through EWP on the muddy ground or something like that. That gonna create another big hazard and accident. And when we operating EWP, another thing is we have to use spotter every time. At least one person on the basket, one person on the ground. That's the good practice when we using EWP. And the fourth one is the training and licensing. Make sure the operator has high risk work license and competent in on EWP operation. And yeah, that's the basic, the risk control that we can put up control more when we on the work area, which is, for example, when we in the sudden environment, there is a lot of people, we have put barricade on the work area to stop people get into the footprint, because there is a potential drop object as well when we're working on the top. That's another thing as well. There's a lot of risk. And the next one, yeah, that's the hot work. When we are doing the hot work on EWP, there's some more risk rather than we are in the workshop or on the ground or something like that. Because we are on the top of the basket, which is up in the air, there is potential you drop to the ground. Let's see. Basically, that's we don't let that one happen. So let's take a look hot work hazard. Usually considered hot work is like sort of grinding or welding or cutting with oxy in the structural or in the construction. Yeah, that's what can create a fire. Usually it's in a lot of incident fire happen in the screen house because of from the molten metal landed to the screen mat, which is can create smoldering and become burn. And yeah, burning the fixed line. Then explosion in combustible area, which is in the fuel farm. Usually we have very strict rule. We're not allowed to do hot work in the fuel farm, because if we can separate them, maybe just do it somewhere else, not in the not close to combustible area. And another thing is the next hazard is toxic and fume, because when we're doing welding, especially galvanized or cutting like that, this can create a fume that is greater than normal welding or cutting mild steel. That's the four hazard that the major one, but there is more hazard. Might be different because different site is different, different workplace is might be different as well. And then how do we control it? Obtain the hot work permit. In hot work permit or permit work itself, there is a question checklist we have to complete the risk assessment before we can actually get the permit to work. And then basically it's designated fire watch, set up charge hose, fire extinguisher on site, and then barricade the work area, make sure no interruption from other team. And then for the operator use correct PPE. For the welder, basically we have to use like fire resistant PPE. Before we go to question, there is a lot more in detail when we go on site, which is every site is different, slightly different risk, which is basically the same EWP falling from the top, and then the hot work is basically to burn ourselves or bring the actual the plant. That's the one happened. So any questions so far when we doing risk assessment on EWP?
For part of the risk assessments, you went in and asked and basically stated that you need to get an appropriate license or certificate. Where would I obtain them if I'm wanting to obtain them?
So everyone can obtain get training on to get EWP license to RTO, which is they can run to operate EWP itself when you have theory and practical.
Mm-hmm.
And then after you pass the assessment, which is theory and practical, and then you can apply to work license, Harris license to work shift, WA. It is sometimes might be just one or two, might be just one day from the morning till the afternoon, but some RTO maybe they can have better management, they can get whole day. And then after you complete theory and then practical, if you're confident, usually for starter is within under 11 meters. But when you your first time, and then maybe after that you can upgrade maybe until like 40 meters or something, 135 footer EWP. But once you pass the question and practical, and then you can get note that you passed the assessment, and then you can maybe usually RTO apply a license for you, and then you can use the approval assessment that you already done. You can use it to operate EWP before you get the license, because you get the license within 60 days, about 2 months, but it takes some time before you get the actual license. The card itself, you can use the paper, the proof that you already passed the assessment to operate the EWP.
And those licenses, do they expire?
Yes, usually expire every 5 years, and then after 5 years you have to renew it, or if you're not renew it, you have to do it from the beginning. That's the rule.
Good.
Anything else about the hot work? Good?
Well, good.
Thank you.